Okay friends, it's time to get started on our job. One of the first things we want to do is start taking off this door panel right across here. To do that, I'm going to come right up to this area right here with a plastic trim tool, and I'm going to carefully get in between and try to separate. There should be a push clip essentially right in this position. There we are, and we can carefully pull this off of here. Now we're going to start separating this wiring harness. I'm going to use a small pocket screwdriver, and the area that you want to try to get in between is the two parts to the wiring. So essentially I'm just going to get right underneath this lip, gently pry it apart, and then we'll separate the two. Once you have it apart, give it a quick inspection. If you see any funny colors, it's corrosion and it would need to be dealt with. This one looks fine, so I'll set it aside. Now let's make our way down to this bezel right here. For this, I'm going to continue with my plastic trim tool, and I essentially just want to get underneath one of the edges, and I'll start gently prying this. Now as I pry it, I'm also going to pull on this door handle a little bit, and I'll continue pulling it off. There's going to be several push clips behind here that you're essentially just going to need to pop free. There we are. I'll slide this off. There is going to be wiring behind this, so we're not going to go too far with it. To remove this electrical connector, we're going to come right over here with our small screwdriver, carefully lift up on this tab, and then we'll gently pry this off. Once again, we'll inspect that connector. If it looks good, set it aside. Behind that area, you're going to find a Phillips head screw. Go ahead and remove that screw. Let's move along to the window switch here. Carefully get underneath this area. We'll gently start pulling it up. Behind this, you're going to find another electrical connector. Let's go ahead and disconnect that as well. For this, you want to squeeze on this tab right here. Gently pull it up. Give it a quick inspection. Set it aside. Let's go ahead and start taking the panel off of the door now. Carefully get in between this area and gently pry. Pull this right off of here. There we are. Have a quick look behind it. You can see that you still have a whole bunch of wiring that needs to be disconnected, but we're not worried about that. We're just going to go ahead and set this right down right here. The next thing that we're going to do is start removing this vapor barrier right here. Now as I grab onto this and start removing it, you can see all this black right here. This is called butyl tape, and it's extremely sticky. If you get it on your clothing or even your skin, you might have an issue getting it off. So just be very careful with it. I'm going to go ahead and carefully remove this without tearing it so I can reinstall it when we're done. Set that right aside. The next thing that I always like to do is just apply a little bit of tape along the window, essentially holding it in the fully up position. So when we start removing our window regulator, we don't have to worry about the glass falling down on us. Now let's make our way down here to the window motor. You're going to find an electrical connector. We need to go ahead and push down on the tab that you can see right here, and then separate the two. Give it a quick inspection, set it aside. Once that's disconnected, we're going to make our way up to this area. You're going to find two holes. Inside each of these holes, you're going to find a 10mm headed bolt. What we want to do for these is just go ahead and get inside there, and we're going to loosen these up. On the inside there, it's going to have a little clamshell that squeezes the window. So by loosening it, it's going to loosen up that clamshell and release the window from the regulator. Just leave that loose. Next, we're going to be looking for our 3 mounting nuts for the window regulator. There's one here, one a little lower, and then if you were to follow it down and to the right, you're going to find the third. Go ahead and remove all 3. Now at this point, we have everything broken free, so we're just going to carefully grab onto this window regulator and push it into the door. Essentially, you want to make sure that each of these studs makes its way past the door panel. Carefully pull this down and we can start removing it from the door. There it is, friends. All right, now it's time to install our brand new window regulator. Let's quickly prepare it for installation. Looking at it where each of those studs were, you can see that it has these plastic tabs which essentially protect it. Just go ahead and grab onto those. You can pop them right off. We'll set those aside for recycling. Now once that's off of there, the next area that you want to pay attention to is those clamshells that I talked to you about. When I loosen up these nuts, this is going to be able to separate so we can slide the window down and inside. Let's go ahead and use our 10mm to loosen each of these 2 bolts. Now we can slide this into position. When we start bringing this up, you want to make sure that the window is going to be sitting inside of each of those clamshells. You don't want the clamshells sitting on either side of it. It needs to go around both sides. Just going to feel up inside there while I do this. Okay, let's get this over here. Now we're going to line up our mounting studs. Once those are lined up, go ahead and start on all of your mounting nuts and then tighten them up. Make sure they're nice and tight. Now that it's mounted, the next area that you want to pay attention to is those clamshells. What you're going to notice on the new window regulator is they're down a little further than what the window is. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and connect in the window motor. Got that little click right there. Now we can connect in our window switch. Listen for a click right there. Go ahead and put the key in the on position and bring the window into the fully up position, paying attention to each of the clamshells. Go ahead and bring this up. Take a peek in there. Make sure the clamshells are sitting around both sides of that window. That one definitely feels good. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, assuming those are good, go ahead and tighten up those 2 mounting bolts. Make sure they're nice and tight so it's gripping onto that window. Let's go ahead and take off our tape so we can test the window to make sure it goes up and down. Perfect. Now it's going to be time to go ahead and put our vapor barrier back on. Just double check everything. Make sure everything's connected as it needs to be inside here, and of course it's mounted the way it needs to be along this way. Assuming everything looks good, go ahead and grab onto that vapor barrier and we'll start reattaching it. Want to line everything up with where it came off of and just press it right on. Now we're going to get ready to put our door panel back on here. I'm just going to go ahead and take these 2 wires and put them in the proper positions. For this one, which has the 90-degree bend, that's going to go up and through this top hole. This other one is going to go underneath through this area. Now you don't want to leave this hanging loose. This is actually supposed to be secured to this point right inside here. Now we're going to talk about how to get this door panel on. If I feel along this area here, I can feel a lip. That needs to fit up and over the door where it's going to mount. Also looking at this, you're going to find a whole bunch of little push tabs that need to press into the door. So of course you're going to want to make sure you have everything lined up, and then we'll go ahead and press it in. All right, let's go ahead and get this up here. You'll also notice that I have this other small wire for the speaker up here. Now I'm going to take it and go nice and high. Essentially, I want to make sure that that lip that I showed you on the door panel slides up and over this area of the door. Once it's up there, I'm going to go ahead and rest it down and in. Okay. Now the next thing that I always do is just have a look down along the side of the door panel. I'm trying to make sure all those pins are lined up with their corresponding holes. Once they are, we can go ahead and press this in. Okay, it's looking good. Now we can put in our Phillips head screw. Make sure that's nice and snug. Let's connect in our window switch. Give it a nice click, give it a tug. Now we're going to go ahead and slide this down and into position. Lock it in. Time for this bezel. We're going to reconnect our connector for this. Listen for a click, a little tug. Now there should be a couple different press in points. Should be one there as well. Pull this. Slide this in. Lock it. Now we can get this corner piece in here. Let's plug that in. A little click, give it a tug. I'm just going to take this, slide it down, bring this down and into position, and press it in. Okay, so at this point we got the car back together. What's left to do now? Now, of course, you're going to want to test it and make sure it functions properly. After that, go ahead and take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.